You be watching the Get Down. His hair is definitely permed in that frame. Okay, let me stop with the antics. Okay, so what's up, y'all? It's me, of course. If you don't know, my name is Brittany, but I go by B.A.D. And I'm here basically to be the brave person to share their ayahuasca experience. The dope thing about this is it's going to be a 3-part series. So this part, I'm just only talking about my experience, like what I saw when I drank ayahuasca. Because keep it real. You press watch because you wanted to hear all the shit I seen when I had ayahuasca in my system. I know. I was you at one point watching them long ass videos, but we ain't even gonna go there. Let's just talk about what happened. So the way ayahuasca works at the retreat center that I went to, that was in Cusco, Peru. It was called Etnikas. And they basically held the ceremonies at 7:30 p.m. every night. The package that I had chose were the 7-day ayahuasca ceremony retreat. So in that 7 days that I was there in the retreat center, I had 3 ayahuasca ceremonies. Intense as fuck. Like, honestly, I felt like I was in a place to where, like, that's what I needed. Intuitively, I just felt like that's how long I needed to be there to get engulfed in it for, like, the 7 days, you know? And so I did it. When it was time to go, I ain't even gonna lie, y'all. I was ooped. I was scared. I was like, the night before knowing the next night I was going to take ayahuasca, I was like, only you, Brittany, will travel by yourself to go in the mountains with 12 or more other people and drink a plant that can do anything to you. I couldn't sleep. I was like really, really like processing that I had to like live it out at that point. You can't get your money back. My flights still leave on X, day. What am I gonna do? Shit. So I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just do it. And so when the first ceremony, okay, so I drank the ayahuasca. 45 minutes into it, I just like really felt connected to the woman shaman that was there. Her name was Rose. And she sat right in front of me and she was chanting as I was like feeling the effects of the ayahuasca. And I looked at her and I just thought to myself how blessed I am for these people to dedicate their whole existence to distributing ayahuasca and helping people like me go through my process, like, and then for the simple fact that I'm from America, like, like I'm just this black girl from Fillmore, San Francisco, that's been through whatever, that's done whatever in my life, and like I'm here with you, and like I just started crying. I cried so much and I just got on my hands and knees and I just felt this sensation of like me having to dedicate everything now, my mind, body, and soul, to whatever God has here for me. Like I have to. Even the stuff that scares me, I have to. And if I don't, I feel like my karma now is going to come down a little bit more stronger on me. And like, honestly, I don't got time for that. So I just dropped down on my hands and knees. I felt like it was time to worship for some reason. Like I felt like God in the room too, and it was like I kept hearing this voice saying like, it's almost over, like it's almost done, like it's okay, like here you get through this rough part and it's done, like it's over. And then it was also another part of me a little afraid about what is done, because like I'm like, I know you probably heard before coming to my video that, ayahuasca can either make you go crazy, it could teach you, or it could kill you. So like me thinking in my, or hearing that voice say it's almost over, I was getting a little bit of a scare shit like, hold on, death. We're gonna have to square up if you do. Cause you feel me? Like, I'm not ready. I feel like I got hella shit to do still. You know, so, but then I surrendered. Instead of fighting, I surrendered and I just trust. And after I did that, I looked up and my eyes was like filled with tears, and I started to like see like figures around me, but I couldn't really make them out. And then immediately I threw up. And when I threw up, it was crazy. Because afterwards, I was like panting like I had been running. Like I was out of breath from just throwing up. And mind you, I had been sitting in the same spot for over an hour. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of many. So I'm out of breath. And afterwards, Ayahuasca hit. I looked back up at the lady and her whole body like turned into like Aztec patterns. It was crazy because it was like I seen like energy coming down out of the Maloha, which is the place where you're sitting in to do the ceremony, and it's dropping down in the Aztec form and placing perfectly in her body like Tetris. It was crazy. That shit was crazy. And I was like just staring at her, and I just was saying like, you're so beautiful. And she was chanting, and of course I didn't understand what she was saying, but I understood what she was saying. That was interesting too. And so I was like, wow, you know, this is amazing. And I looked back over where I seen the figures, and the second time I looked over, I seen my mother. And if you guys don't know, my mom passed away today. What is March 11th? 2019. My mom died October 20th, 2018. So like, yeah, like, and I did this January 3rd, 2019. So, yeah, so, you know, that shit hit. That was like, I just went through that. And so I seen her, but when I seen her though, she was my daughter's age. She was like 10, yeah. And she was really sad. She was like crying, and she was sad, and like her head was down. And I was like trembling a little bit because I was like, oh my God, like that's my mom. Like, what the fuck? And so I called her over to me, and she immediately came to me, and I just grabbed her. In the moment that I grabbed her, one of the workers at the retreat in real time handed me a heating pad. It was that happened a lot there, by the way. Like the people that worked there, they were so tapped in, like, and they didn't even know. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So she handed me a heating pad, in the same moment my mom is in my arms now. And I closed my eyes, and I just felt all the pain that she had ever been through. Mm-hmm. And like I started to go through like the sense of like the times in my childhood where I felt abandoned, and where I felt like, you know, like just like there was nobody there to look out for me, and I was looking out for everybody else. Like, you know, like I felt all of that in that moment, and I cried, and the cry felt like I was being like washed, like almost like God was like pouring water over my head, and it was like coming down, because it was weird. It was I mean, it wasn't weird. It was my process. Yeah. And so I'm just holding her, feeling it. I started seeing like things that has happened to my father. My dad was in prison for 10 years, and I started seeing him like in prison in different situations. I later called him and told him about it. He verified that had actually happened. Wow. Yeah. I seen things like with other family members, you know, I'm not going to speak on because, you know, that's that. And I later confirmed that was also real too. And yeah, I sat there and just was like, just really, really in that, all of those moments. And I felt it like how they felt it. And I look up again, face filled with tears, and I see two children. And they were like playful though. Like they were like, oh, what's up? You see us now? Like it was kind of like, oh, okay, she paid attention. and they looked just like me. And I just stared at them for a minute, and then it dawned on me that those are my children. I've had 2 abortions. And yeah, and it was, and I knew because like the ages that they were reflect like how old they would be right now. So it was kind of like, so it was an older one, and there was one that was like 3, and they was like, "What's up?" You know, like looking at me, and I was like, "Fuck!" I swear, y'all. Oh, what are those?
That's deep. That's
and
so deep.
I cried. And then they was like looking at me like, "What you crying for? We here." That's the energy. Good. Yeah. We're here. And so I told them to come to me, and then I held my mom and my 2 babies, and I laid down on my side, and I just held them, and I closed my eyes, and I started to like fall. It was like me just falling now. And I'm spooked. And so I, again, just remind myself, Brittany, surrender. That's one thing you better do, is surrender. No matter whatever it is, you just gotta do it. And so I did it, and then immediately, as soon as I went from like fighting in the air, I just was like, fuck it, I'm doing it. Okay, so I was fighting, and then I finally was like, Brittany, surrender. And I did, and I just let go. And then I started like falling, but then I just started flying. It was crazy, and I'm like spinning and doing hella shit and doing too much, right? And then next thing you know, I get burnt out, and then I start falling again. I'm like, fuck. I thought I made it over the hill. And I hit water, and if you know or you don't know, but I don't know how to swim. And I'm going to change that this year. Me and my daughter, we're going to learn, but that's besides the point. But I hit water, and I started to panic. Again, because what I know is I don't know how to swim. In the physical realm, I don't know about the spiritual realm. So again, I had to remind myself to surrender, and I did. And then I started swimming like a dolphin. Now, since I catted off in the air, right, and I was doing too much, when I was the dolphin, I didn't do too much, but I still ended up hitting this huge ass piranha that was like the size of a whale. And it opened its teeth at me. And then in that moment, I was just like, I'm not even about to try to
I can't even fight this off. just do what you please.
And it immediately opened its mouth and literally gobbled me. Mind you, it was as big as a whale, and I was still this size, so I didn't get chewed. I just went inside of it. And so I'm like in it, and then it's dark and it's stank, and like I'm like in it, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then out of nowhere, I land where I'm supposed to be, and I'm like trying to like take a step forward, and I feel like there's nothing there. Like, you know, I just kept one foot down, and I was like searching with the other foot, and it was nothing there. But then the foot that was still planted wherever it was, it felt gushy. So then it's dark still, so I'm like afraid basically to move forward. And then something told me just to walk, Brittany, just walk. And so I walked, and it was something there. And then I walk again, and there was something there. And then the light started to come out like where I was inside of the piranha, and I was in a fucking art gallery. Yeah. And I'm like looking around like, nigga, this is sick as fuck. And then I look down, and literally I'm standing on like guts, but in a stone size. And then everything else is like, I will fall again. And I'm like, okay. So then something told me like, Brittany, walk again, like that walk, Brittany, you should just walk. So I walked, and then the next step was formed right in front of me. And I took another step, and then it was the same thing, and I kept going. And after that, the person that worked at the retreat center came over and told me that it had been over 4 hours, and that it was time for me to come eat dinner or go lay down. I was like, damn. When I immediately got up, though, I felt like I was relearning how to walk for a second. Yeah, like I did. I felt like I had to pull it back together. I was like kind of like almost like how you'll feel when you're drunk without the like nausea. I didn't have any nausea or nothing like that. Although you do throw up when you drink ayahuasca, there's no nausea. Well, at least I didn't have any. And so that was the first ceremony. The dope thing, which I'll get into in more depth in another video, is that after you do the ayahuasca ceremonies, you speak to a psychiatrist and a shaman. And when I spoke to them, that they basically told me that night when I threw up, the woman shaman, she saw 3 black stones exit my body. And she told me those were the 3 major traumas that I have been through in my life. She said the reason why I seen family members was because I'm also purging generational trauma that's happened within my bloodline, and I'm like helping them, like, yeah. And so she also said that the whole thing of me walking inside of the piranha was me knowing that I'm in my right direction and I need to continue to move forward no matter if I don't know what that is. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I know, I have a sense of what it will feel like and what like it will kind of look like, but then there's also that gray area where you really, you don't know, but I do know I'm supposed to go there intuitively. So like, keep walking, like it's good, like you gonna make it out. Like that's basically what she said. And that was the first night. Second night, I'm ready for ayahuasca. I'm like, what? Nigga, my shit was prolific. I threw up 3 traumas. What's up? What's next? I see art galleries and piranhas and shit. Like, what you got show me?
What you got for me?
What you got for me? Because I know it's going to be lit now because I got the bad shit out. Like, that's what I'm thinking. The second night was the complete opposite. I was so blown away. So basically, I drank the ayahuasca. I'm amped. I'm like, in 45 minutes, I'm about to be in a whole new world.
Yeah.
45 minutes past nothing. Hour past nothing. It's like going on like an hour and 30 minutes. Nothing. And I'm getting discouraged because like I hear the other people in the room with me. At that time, it was 14 of us, and we were all in the room, and I'm hearing some of them throw up. I'm hearing some of them going through their process, and it was 3 people that night that were having a rough time. One of them, he was like making noises and grunting like an animal, like he was transforming into like whatever that animal was, and it's pitch black in the room, and I can hear it. So like I'm hearing him. I hear another guy. Like he was kind of sitting a person away from me, and he was like laughing like a witch, like it was like an evil like laugh. And then another guy that was maybe like 3 people down from me, he was screaming like he was in agony, like he was like if I could imagine what he was going through, to me it sounded like he was getting burned, like burned to death, like no, like. Doing hella shit. Yeah. And so, mind you, nothing's happening for me. And I'm just like, can I at least throw the shit up? Like, that's what I'm thinking. And then, so the noises started to, like, kind of freak me out a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I was like, okay, this is some spooky shit. I am in the mountains somewhere. Like... like I'm out the way. If something happened, where am I running to?
Right.
Where?
Nowhere. You're just there.
You're there. So because of that, I covered myself with my blankets. They give you blankets and sleeping bags and shit. So I covered myself with a blanket over my head, and I was laying there, and I was processing that question again, like, where would I go? Like, and I'm starting to like get a little freaked out. And as I'm getting freaked out, it's intensifying in the room.
Yeah, it's getting more. It's kicking in.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
You probably, because you could probably see me because you know me.
Yeah, I'm just picturing everything. So this is
And you can imagine me because you know me. Like I'd be like, hold on. Do we gotta go? And you know I'm a proactive motherfucker. So like, if it's really like, I will get spunky and figure it out
and go.
So okay,
I'm sure you was picturing your escape plan. That's what you were doing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then in the midst of that is intensifying. So then next thing you know, I'm holding myself like this and I'm rocking back and forth under the blanket, right? And then I look up and I see hella black shit like flying around in the room. I immediately like felt like the first night I felt protected. I felt the presence of God. That second night I felt the demonic shit. Like I felt the shit that I don't even like play with. If I know it's there, I don't show up there. Like that's how I felt. And I immediately threw the blanket back over. I was like, oh shit. Oh shit. And I'm like rocking. And then the one thing I will say I did feel and started to imagine was like me in a white room in a straitjacket. And I said, Brittany, do you know who the fuck you are? I literally had to have that talk with myself. Like, hold the fucking phone. Matter of fact, hang that bitch up. So I sat up. I got brave and I sat up and I just raised my hand. I took the shit off. I still feel all the same shit. I'm like Brittany, stand tall, fuck it. And so I raised my hand and one of the workers came over to me. He was like, are you okay? I said, no. He go, well, how can I help you? What's going on? I said, I'm ready to go. And he was like, how come you're ready to go? I said, because there's some dark shit in here. And it ain't got nothing to do with me. And I gotta go because I don't like it. And he goes, okay. And he helped me up. He was like, I'm going to come back and get all of your stuff, so don't worry. And so I was like, okay. So we walked out. And as soon as I walked out, I seen, man, my little brother. His name is Nick. He's from Belgium. Man, he was so tight. He the first person I see after that. And as soon as I see him, he was like, Britt, I'm hungry as fuck. I'm hella hungry. I'm like, me too. We just instantly just sit out in the stars, in the dark, you know. We just was like talking, and he was like me. He didn't feel anything either. And so that night was interesting because a lot of us in that group of 14, we didn't feel anything. Only 3 people did. And it was the 3 people that were making the noises, which was interesting. And they all like, I send them lots of love if y'all see this, and I'm not gonna say your name. Okay. All right. So after I went out, I sat with Nick. A bunch of other stuff happened, but I choose not to speak about it. You know, just out of respect for the people who were having a rough time that night, I'm not going to tell their story. But what I will say is the next day when we spoke to the shaman said that all of us that didn't feel anything that night, we all had to be very grounded. Ayahuasca was making us purge through our eyes versus like, you know, vomit. Well, that's what he said about me, because I didn't vomit or use the bathroom until like the afternoon the next day. So I went to bed with ayahuasca still in my system and felt nothing. That's wild, right? Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And so later, that same night, I had a moment where I was just super thankful that I'm so mentally strong to be able to see the things that I've seen and go through the things that I've gone through and not be knocked off my rocker and still have a strong sense of self within me to always hold on to, you know, and feel sturdy with, you know. So like that definitely was a moment where I had to, you know, thank God. I had to pray, like, you know, if that was my superpower, I fucks with you guys. I mean, I've been fucking with you, but I really, 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 really do now, you know? So, okay. So, anyways, so the last night, I was a little bit apprehensive about doing it a third time. But then, of course, you know that I did because, you know, you gotta finish it. So I was a little nervous because I just didn't know what to expect. With the first night being prolific, the second night being demonic, I'm like, what's the third night? what can we? I don't know. So I drink the ayahuasca. This time around, a lot of people had left after the second ceremony. Some people, their retreat that they chose was just over. Some people just chose to leave because it was so intense that night. They didn't want to. So on the last ceremony, it was just 6 of us. And the guy that was sounding like an animal the second night, he was having a rough time again. And I felt a connection with him when I met him. That when I went out there and I met him, he was also from Belgium. His dad was from the Congo and his mom was Belgium. So he kind of like reminded me of Drake. He was like, but he was cool though, and like he was super. He had a pretty angelic like aura about him, but he was going through some things, you know, and so he was like grunting and making the animal noises. And instead of being afraid this time, I decided to send him love. He was across the room from me. So I sat up and, I got in my Indian style pose and I just sat there like this. And I just was like, just really deep into my breathing. And I just opened my heart and I just was like, I'm going to just give him all the love and all the strength for him to be able to work through whatever that is, you know? And as I was doing that, he started to slowly stop. And then he eventually just stopped. And I was like, whoa, it worked. And I opened my eyes and I looked over and he was next to the door, which was right next to me. And he was just standing there. And I was like, because remember, he was across the room, sitting in his sleeping bag, grunting and going through, and yeah. And then so I was like, wow, like, damn. And then immediately, in the midst of going, wow, I felt exhausted. So I laid down, and as soon as I laid down, something pushed my body right back up. And I had to like sit, and I was on my knees, and I was just sitting up, and then it pushed my head up, and then I just felt all of this warm, like, light and energy just get poured into my body. I was like, it was so crazy. Like, I felt like, how can I even put it into words? I felt like tingling sensations, like all through my body. I felt strong, like I felt like sensations all over that just felt really like good. And I was just like, whoa. And every time I tried to pull my head down, my head got pushed right back up. And I'm like, oh. And then one of the workers came over to me. And mind you, I was struggling with like my blood pressure out there because the elevation is so high. And when I got to the retreat center, I literally hopped off a plane and went straight to the retreat center and started. I didn't give my body time to adjust. So with the elevation being so high, my blood pressure was high. So they were like just watching me a little bit closer, just to make sure, nothing go wrong. So the nurse and the worker come over and they're like, are you okay, Brittany? And I'm like, hell yeah. They just like let me be. And then it stopped. And then I was like, whoa, okay. Like, all right, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go eat dinner. I'm ready to go lay down. I'm ready to go journal. Like that was dope, right? And then so I raised my hand. The worker come over to me. He's like, are you okay, Brittany? I was like, absolutely. And he was like, so do you need anything? I said, I'm ready to go. And he was like, oh, I need you to wait 5 minutes, Brittany. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I'll be back and come for you in 5 minutes. I said, okay. And so I just laid down. I still feel like tingly. I like lay down. And I closed my eyes. And as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw my mom again. And this time she was her 50-year-old self. And she was like super happy. I felt this sense of like she was proud, she was encouraged, she was like just like glowing, and she was a little far from me. And immediately, as soon as I saw her face, I just started bawling. And it felt good though, because it was like, yeah, mama, like you feel good. Just a quick little like backstory on that. My mom passed away from a brain tumor, the same brain tumor that John McCain had, glioblastoma, and we found it in August 2018, and she passed away October 20th, 2018. So literally a few months after finding she had it, it took her out, and she struggled with things in her life that kind of had her a little depressed and a little stagnant in ways. And like she shared with me a few times that like, you know, she just felt like everybody is in their moment and everybody is glowing, and she just didn't know what her thing was yet, and it bothered her, you know. So she kind of struggled with some things, but I will constantly be like, mama, like, you know, write down what you want in your life. Let's talk about what you want. Let's not talk about what you don't want. Let's not like be in pain. Like, let's talk about, you know, like let's look at ourselves and know we're worthy. Like, let's do that. And that year that she died, in the beginning of the year, she was starting to do things. Like she had on her mirror in her bathroom positive affirmations that she, like a daily morning prayer she would say to herself that said how worthy she was and how beautiful. She was like sending me videos of like, you know, like just like different pastors talking and saying like words of encouragement. Like she was slowly getting into the groove of being in that path to transform her life. You know, but unfortunately or fortunately, that, you know, that's what happened. So she kind of passed away in pain. And so to see her in that moment glowing and proud, I was like, my mama feel good. Like what? Like she's in her moment. I felt like she was at her peak in her moment. And I was just like, go ahead, mama. Like, I damn near felt like I was like in the stands of something and she was like on stage, like, you know. And that was so beautiful. And I'm like in that moment with her, and then the same light that was poured into me started getting poured into her, and I was watching her like getting it, like she doing this, she looking at me like, Brittany, look at me, look at me. And I was like, damn, like, oh man. And so literally the light started pulling her, and I watched my mama transcend. And that shit, and then as soon as I'm watching her go up, the worker come back and say, he's like, are you ready to go, Brittany? And I looked at him, I said, how did you know I needed to be here for 5 more minutes? And he was like, shout out to Gabe, because I know you probably watching this. I love you. Man. And he was like, I don't know, Brittany. Mother Ayahuasca is just powerful. And I was like, God damn, it is. And the next day I spoke to the shaman, and they told me that they were so happy that I came, and they told me that they're happy that I am aware enough to know I needed to be there, because I was not just there for myself. My mom, like me seeing her as a child the first night, I was helping her work through, do her therapy that she never did when she was alive. How about that? She's been through some things that she didn't really handle, in a progressive kind of way. So that's what kind of held her back. And so like me being there was that therapy for her. And it was allowing her to move forward in her spiritual life. So, That was ayahuasca, y'all.
Pachamama kalpay kita koy ko way ko tongkoy ko man hayaya 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 Pachamama kalpay kita koy ko way ko hayaya 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 Enti tai tai anjay ni kiwan kanjamu way